Hey, and welcome back to Strange Minds 6. I'm your host, Ruby, and today we're going to be getting into the story of Strange Things Are Happening. Creepers. Pen Pals by Edgar J. Hyde. Chapter 1. The Note. Natasha Morris, will you please tell me and the rest of your classmates what on earth is so interesting outside? With a jolt, Natasha turned toward the teacher. I'm sorry, Miss Harris. I was just thinking about... Natasha's voice trailed off. She couldn't think of an excuse, and she couldn't possibly tell the truth that this morning's long-winded history lesson was boring. After all, wasn't history supposed to be about Henry VIII and his 6 wives, romance, divorce, and gory beheadings? Instead, she was having to listen for 2 hours about crop rotation. No, don't even bother stuttering your way through an excuse. Just do me a favor and pay attention. Remember, you have a test coming up next week, and crop rotation just might be one of the questions. Miss Harrison turned to the rest of the class. Now, where were we? Her voice droned on and on. Olivia turned and smiled at Natasha sympathetically. The two were best friends and had been since they met for the first time as 4-year-olds in the same preschool. They were now in 8th grade, enjoying feeling grown up, carrying their books from class to class around the massive, never-ending hallways, giggling as they frequently got lost, only to arrive red and breathless to the next class. They had made new friends, too. There was Elise, with her dark curly hair and large brown eyes. Natasha envied her. Then there was Marcy, though. Natasha couldn't make up her mind about her just yet. She was the complete opposite of Elise. Pale, with long, straw-like blonde hair, and somewhat on the quiet side. Pale and interesting, I guess, if you were being nice, thought Natasha. She hastily scribbled a note and passed it to Olivia, without Miss Harrison noticing. Meet you outside the library at 4. Olivia quickly pushed the note inside her notebook and gave no sign of having received anything. Natasha looked at her watch. 10 minutes past 4. Where on earth was Olivia? Just then, she saw Olivia, Marcy, and Elise wind their way up the long path from the front of the school. You took your time, she smiled, as all 3 girls stopped just beside her. Sorry, Natasha, it's my fault, said Elise. I left my new favorite lip gloss in the bathroom and had to go get it. You never know who you might see on the way home. Elise was always experimenting with lip gloss and eyeshadow and always on the lookout for free samples. She would come to school drenched in perfume, having spent the weekend in the perfume department of the nearest store. You should try some, Marcy. Look, it's a pale pink. It'd look really great on you. Gosh, no, said Marcy. My mom would freak out. She says there's plenty of time to put all that junk, as she calls it, on my face. Anyway, I'd rather keep my money for important things. I'm gonna buy some new headphones this weekend. At least they will last longer than your makeup will. Hey, Elise! Someone shouted from behind them. The girls turned to see Scott Grayson across from them. He was the best-looking guy in their grade, and everyone had their eye on him. If you're going home, I'll walk with you. Elise smiled. See what the junk on your face does for you girls? She muttered, Sure, Scott. I was just saying goodbye to the girls. See you tomorrow, everybody. And off she went, pink lips glistening, dark curls bouncing, backpack slung casually over her arm. Don't you just wish you had her confidence? Sighed Olivia. Yes, and her hair and her teeth and her eyes, replied Natasha. Never mind. Make the best of what you got, is what my mom always says. Now, let's see what you make out of the three of us. And as the three started to make their way home, they laughed together, picking out the parts of each other that they thought would be the best. Okay, Natasha, said Olivia. You give me your tiny waist. Marcy can give me her small, perfectly shaped feet. And I can probably get away with using my own hands if I paint my fingernails. And with the help of a wig, there we have it, the perfect girl. And so the conversation carried on until the girls were almost home. Oh, and Natasha, Olivia began, next time you write me a note in class, you really don't have to write my full name on it. I know who I am. Natasha looked at Olivia. I didn't write your full name, Olivia. In fact, I didn't even write your first name. Yes, you did. Olivia laughed as she fished in both jacket pockets for the note. You wrote Olivia Golden. Meet you outside the library at 4. Darn, I can't find the note. Oh, look, here it is. They had now reached Marcy's house, and Olivia had emptied the contents of her backpack onto the pavement outside. She showed the hastily scrawled note to Natasha, and sure enough, Olivia's name was written above what Natasha remembered writing. That's really weird, Olivia. I don't remember writing that. It doesn't even look like my handwriting. Marcy, where have you been? The girls heard Marcy's mom shout from an upstairs window. Oops, gotta go. Mom wants me to go to the grocery store with her today. See you tomorrow. Bye, Marcy, called the two girls as she disappeared inside her front door. Natasha was still staring at the note. Stop trying to be funny, Natasha. I mean, if you passed the note straight to me, and I didn't add my own name on it, then who did? Olivia protested. Anyway, look, I have to run too. I'm babysitting Mrs. Winter's twins tonight, and I have to try and get my homework done before I go. I'll see you tomorrow. All right, sighed Natasha, but I still don't understand. She left Olivia at the end of the street, where the road leading to her house forked left. Weird, she thought. As she walked, she must have been in more of a bored stupor than she realized this morning. How could you write someone's name and not remember? Susanna Craigson, she read out loud from one of the gravestones in the cemetery. She had to pass the cemetery every morning and afternoon, going to and from school, and although she was never comfortable with it, she found the best way around it. It was to make up stories about the people lying beneath the rows and rows of tombstone. That way, it took the scariness out of it. Born November 2nd, 1806, cruelly taken from her beloved parents November 1st, 1820. Natasha had never noticed that particular stone before. Or maybe it was just that she had never actually realized how young Susanna had been when she died. Wonder what happened to her, she thought. The word used was cruelly. It seemed to indicate murder or something gory and horrible. Better stop thinking about it, she decided. Mom always says my imagination's too vivid. It'll end up getting me into trouble one of these days. Here comes Fatso. Here comes Fatso. Her younger brother's chant soon stopped her from daydreaming. Come here, Tommy, you little brat, she laughed, chasing the bubbly little 3-year-old into the backyard. I'll show you, Fatso. She grabbed him and hugged him tightly around the waist, lifting him right off his feet. She kissed him loudly on the lips and came away covered in green sticky goo. What have you been eating now? She smiled. Gooey monsters, he said, and showed her the empty packet in the tiny hands. Green slimy guts, she read out loud, made from jelly and packets of sugar and full of additives. She added, your teeth will fall out, and poked him in the tummy playfully. Don't care about teeth, he retorted. Like ooey gooey monsters. How did the rhyme go? She mused as she went inside to change. Sugar and spice and all things nice. Oh yes, frogs and snails and puppy dog tails. Or something like that. Tommy was that all right, and she adored every last inch of him. She wondered if Susanna Craigston had a brother. Chapter 2. Look Out. The next morning, Natasha simply couldn't believe they were having to play soccer outside in the rain. It had started to rain last night and hadn't let up at all, so the field was virtually flooded. Their gym teacher, however, had insisted that they change and get out there. Rain never hurt anyone. So, there they were, trying desperately to run around, but usually ended up sprawled on the ground with the ball and legs flying everywhere, but the right way. Natasha walked over to where Olivia was, standing near the goal. Both Olivia and Marcy hated sports of any kind and were both trying to look small and insignificant so that Miss Stars wouldn't notice they weren't participating in the game. Managing to get away with it so far, she hissed at the pair. Olivia raised her eyes up. I'm so wet and dirty, I'll have to soak in a hot bubble bath for at least 3 hours tonight. Natasha laughed. Just then, one of the girls at the far end of the field started to run towards them. As she drew nearer, Natasha realized that the girl was Elise, wearing a brand new bright orange and green headband. Elise drew her foot back and kicked the ball as hard as she could. The ball seemed to be heading straight for Olivia. Natasha moved forward to try and stop it, but to her surprise, Marcy moved out in front of her. She took a swipe at the ball, but misjudging the wet ground, leaned too forward, causing herself to skid in the mud. She slid far down the field. Turning around to face the opposite direction, the ball flew. Through the air, Natasha grabbed Olivia. "Olivia, look out!" she shouted as both girls fell to the ground, waiting for the sickening thud. The ball landed just beside Natasha's foot, narrowly missing the girls. On almost the exact spot where Olivia had been, there standing a few short seconds before. Miss Stars was running down the field. Miss Stars was running down the field, wet hair, standing straight up, eyes wide with horror, unsure whether or not anyone had been hurt. "Natasha, Olivia, are you all right?" "Oh, thank goodness," she said as both girls stood up. Both their faces were streaked with mud and their gym clothes were dirty and soaked. "Go inside and take a hot shower, girls," she said gently, "while I attend to Marcy." Marcy, too, was on her feet. "I'm sorry, Olivia, Miss Stars. I was only trying to block—" She was crying now, her pale cheeks even paler than normal. "Go inside, Marcy," said Mrs. Stars. "Go ahead, follow the girls in and take a hot shower. I'll come and see you all in a minute or two." Mrs. Stars gently herded the girls into the school, went back to the top of the field. She checked her watch, only about 10 minutes to go. She'd let the 3 girls have some time to themselves and then get the rest of the class inside and cleaned up. She blew the whistle for the girls to play on and heaved a sigh of relief. She thought her recently completed first aid course was finally going to come in handy. She looked around to see where Elise went. Miss Stars knew she hadn't meant any harm, but since she was the one who kicked the offending ball, she was sure she'd be concerned about Olivia. She finally spotted Elise standing on her own on one side of the field. Now isn't that strange? Miss Stars shook her head. She had thought Olivia and Elise were friends. Maybe she was wrong. She tried to shake some of the rain from her hair and ran up the field to make sure nothing else was going on. Elise admired her new tennis shoes. She thought the green flash on the side matched her new headband really well. Marcy was drying off after her warm shower. She was shaking from the shock of what had almost happened. "I really am sorry, Olivia," she kept repeating. "I was only trying to block the shot. I could see from where I was standing that Elise was going to make a direct hit. I mean, I don't mean that she meant to hit you, just that I could see that it looks like— Oh, I don't know what I mean anymore. I really am so sorry," she finished. Olivia put her arms around the tearful girl. "Look, Marcy, I really appreciate what you did out there just now, but the truth is that no harm was done, and I'm eternally grateful to you for getting me off that cold, wet field and into this warm shower. No more tears, okay?" Marcy smiled. "Okay, if you're sure you forgive me." "And hey," joked Natasha, Aren't you a dark horse? I thought you hated soccer. Yet, there you were, diving in front of people, going after balls. Quite the little athlete heroine. Just shows that friends, what friends will do for you. You're lucky, Olivia, she finished. Marcy looked apprehensive, but when she realized that Natasha was genuinely congratulating her, she visibly relaxed. Let's get dressed and get out of here, she said Olivia, before the rest of the class comes in and we're caught up in the stampede. And remember, we have to pick up our class photos today. I can't wait to see how awful we look. And that is the end of chapter 2. Tune in next time for chapter 3, class photo. And this has been Ruby, signing off.